Matthew 14. At that time, Herod the Tetrarch heard reports about Jesus, and he said to his servants, "This is John the Baptist. He has been raised from the dead, and because of this, miraculous powers are at work in him." For Herod had arrested John, bound him, and put him in prison on account of Herodias, his brother Philip's wife, because John had repeatedly told him, "It is not lawful for you to have her." Although Herod wanted to kill him, he feared the crowd because they accepted John as a prophet. But on Herod's birthday, the daughter of Herodias danced before them and pleased Herod, so much that he promised with an oath to give her whatever she asked. Instructed by her mother, she said, "Give me the head of John the Baptist here on a platter." Although it grieved the king because of his oath and the dinner guest, he commanded it to be given. So he sent and had John beheaded in prison. His head was brought on a platter and given to the girl, and she brought it to her mother. Then John's disciples came and took the body and buried it and went out and told Jesus. Now when Jesus heard this, he went away from them privately in a boat to an isolated place. But when the crowd heard about it, they followed him on foot from the towns. As he got out, he saw a large crowd, and he had compassion on them and healed their sick. When evening arrived, his disciples came to him, saying, "This is an isolated place, and the hour is already late. Send the crowds away so they can go into the villages and buy food for themselves." But he replied, "They don't need to go. You give them something to eat." They said to him, "We have here only 5 loaves and 2 fish. "Bring them here," he replied. Then he instructed the crowds to sit down on the grass. He took the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks, and he broke the loaves. He gave them to his disciples, who in turn gave them to the crowd. They all ate and were satisfied. They picked up the broken pieces left over, 12 baskets full, not counting women and children. There were about 5,000 men who ate. Immediately, Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go ahead of him to the other side while he dispersed the crowd. And after he sent the crowds away, he went up to the mountain by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone. Meanwhile, the boat was already far from land, was taking a beating from the waves because of the wind was against it. As the night was ending, Jesus came to them walking on the sea. When the disciples saw him walking on the water, they were terrified and said, "It's a ghost!" and cried out with fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, "Have courage! It is I! Do not be afraid." Peter said to him, "Lord, if it is you, order me to come to you on the water." So he said, "Come." Peter got out of the boat, walked on the water, and came toward Jesus. But when he saw the strong wind, he became afraid and started to sink. He cried out, "Lord, save me." Immediately, Jesus reached out his hand and caught him, saying to him, "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" When they went up into the boat, the wind ceased. Then those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." After they had crossed over, they came to the land of the Gennesaret. When the people there recognized him, they sent word into the surrounding area, and they brought all their sick to him. They begged him, if they could only touch the edge of his cloak. And all who touched it were healed. Okay. Lot of things in this passage to go over. Supersonic, thank you for the spot of tea. Let me see if there's anything else that came up other than some shout-outs. What it looked like Lucis was just shouting out everybody. Supersonic on a 7-stream streak. Thank you, buddy. Okay, that's all it was. Lucis doing a bunch of shout-outs. Didn't miss anything else. Okay. Now, I preached last week, Sunday, on John 14 with Herod and the beheading. Oh, sorry. It is English breakfast today. English breakfast. Okay, so I preached on this. So I actually posted this yesterday. So if you go to my YouTubes, you could find the sermon that I did. Yes, Rise on. Peter was off to a good start, but then he thought he could only walk on the stiller water. I thought we had a lot of things that way. I think we do a lot of things. I think you're right. I think we do get a good start, and then we fill with doubts after we get the good start. We have confidence that God is calling us to something. This is a good example. Let's just stick with that. We are confident that we have heard from God, that he has called us, and we step out in faith, and we act in faith, and then we look at circumstances, and we decide the circumstances are pretty powerful. And then we lose sight of where we're supposed to be going and what we're supposed to be doing. We take our eyes off Jesus is the way I've often heard it said. When you take your eyes off Jesus and you put them on your problems can overwhelm you. So God will do this much for me, but maybe not that much. There's a bit of that. Okay, so I'm not going to redo my whole sermon. If you want to watch that, I'll post a link in Discord. I don't know that I have YouTube set up for my channel. Do I have the command? Oh, yes, this is the Bible VODs, but you can search around there and you'll be able to find the sermon. Anyway, what's interesting is the way that John introduces this is that Herod is terrified. Why is Herod terrified? Because Jesus is performing miracles. So we're actually getting a flashback. This story is a flashback. Herod thinks that Jesus is John the Baptist raised from the dead, and the evidence of it being John the Baptist raised from the dead is all the miraculous things that he is doing. So Herod, talk about a guilty conscience, man. Talk about a guilty conscience. He definitely has a guilty conscience. So the miraculous powers that he's doing. But the whole point with Herod here, John is arrested. John has been telling Herod it's unlawful for him to take his brother's wife. Now, what's interesting is there is a whole thing in the Old Testament where if your brother dies and he has no children, you are supposed to be the kinsman redeemer and redeem the name of your brother so that the the name of your brother is passed on. And so you would do that. This isn't what happened here. This is, and I believe it's mutual from the way that it looks. It's not just that, hey, his brother isn't as powerful as Herod is becoming, and he likes his brother's wife, so he's like, yeah, you can get with me. And he takes her. There's also a point at which she has her own power and prestige, and it's kind of like, yeah, I got two brothers that are kings, and the one is losing power, and the other is gaining power. I'm going to switch horses midstream. So she's also involved in this fully. But he being the king, he could absolutely say no to this, and he doesn't. So John is pointing it out to him. Herod, finally tired of it, throws him in prison. And then this occasion happens where it's his birthday, and he has... so he fears the crowds. He fears the crowd, so he will not kill him. Notice that. He fears the crowd when he's in public. But here, he has just dinner guests. Dinner guests are not the crowd. Dinner guests are ones he could lose face with. They're prestigious, prominent people that are going to have influence. He doesn't want to lose influence with them. So they're going to be important in the story. But Herodias' daughter dances. Now, I've heard many people say, this must have been some kind of sensual dance, and Herod was hypnotized by her. It says nothing whatsoever. It says she danced and pleased him. It does not have to be sexual in nature. Let me just go look here at Matthew 14 and see what it says in the Greek, if there's anything implied by the word there. I think it's just ordinary. Like, we don't know her age, so maybe we could figure it out, but I'm saying the text doesn't tell us the age. Aresco.
Strong's G 700. Aresco.
Okay. To please, to strive to please, to accommodate oneself to the opinions, desires, and interests of another. It's just a simple, it was amazing. He thought it was great. Like the same way you could have elementary school kids go up and do a dance, and you would be pleased by them if they were your daughter, your stepdaughter, okay? I've heard so many times where they make this into a sexual type of innuendo here. It doesn't say that in the text. There's nothing that implies that I can see. So he's just pleased, and he opens his big mouth because it's his birthday, and he got a birthday gift of a dance. He says, whatever you want. She goes to mom. She doesn't ask for herself. She is so much wanting mom's approval, probably, in a negative way here, but also maybe some wisdom in the mom. What could I ask for that's bigger? What could I ask for that's bigger than I could think of? Because, Mom, you could help me out here. Ask for something really grand. But when Mom says the head of John the Baptist, like she's like, nah, she should say, nah, Mom. Yeah, that's not cool. No, I want something for me. What do I get out of this? Like, he gets beheaded. Whoopity-doo. What do I get? I get nothing out of that. I mean, no, Mom, not doing that. I mean, you want to ask Dad for that? That's your business. But, like, daughter doesn't push back, okay? So there's a whole bunch of family dynamics here. But anyway, Herod is grieved by this. Because of his oath and his dinner guest, he does it. So he makes an oath. He doesn't want to break his word. He promised dinner guests. He doesn't want to lose face. He knows what he is ordering is wrong, and he does it anyway. And John, when he's telling the story, he starts us out with the guilty conscience that Jesus has making him feel guilty because he beheaded John. So you think he wonders who Jesus is? You think he doesn't long to find out who Jesus is? And you think that he's going to touch Jesus? I don't think so. Okay. So that all happens, and then John's disciples come and take the body. Notice it just says takes the body. I'm assuming that the head gets to keep being displayed. The head is probably kept. But the disciples take care of his body. Now, here's an interesting thing. And then they go and tell Jesus. His disciples are following John. John goes to his death. His disciples are still going to honor John, even if there's a risk to themselves. Probably not much. When a leader or a rabbi, a prophet goes away, they're not the same as a political leader where you got to wipe everybody out. They just kind of fade away in some ways. They go find other people to follow. So John's disciples probably not a serious risk here, but for a short period of time, some risk that might be happening. Okay, let's snooze ads again. I don't want to try to come back after ads. Okay. So that was my sermon from last week. Like I said, if you want to watch it, you can go watch it. So when Jesus heard this, he went away privately. So Jesus is going to take some time for himself after this heinous thing has taken place. He is going to do that. He gets in a boat. He goes and he isolates himself. And when he does, word gets out and the crowds follow him on foot. So he gets in a boat. People figure out where he went, and they go follow him. So Jesus doesn't even get a reprieve from grief to mourn his friend. He doesn't even get a reprieve of grief from what happened to John. He tries to. The crowds come, and then, of course, he has compassion on them, and he heals their sick. So when evening arrived, his disciples tried to get rid of the crowd. They're trying to get out of it. Like they're in an isolated place. The part of the point of an isolated place is there's not enough for them to go and get food for everybody. They had no plans on having a crowd around. The crowd just showed up. but Jesus has compassion on them. It already says that, and he wants to heal them, and he makes the problem their problem. Okay? He replied, they don't need to go. You give them something to eat. Now, they must have already did some searching. The other Gospels tell us different things, but here they say we have 5 loaves and 2 fish. For those that don't know, pay attention to numbers at times. You're supposed to think of things. So 5 being the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, and the 2 tablets, the 10 commandments, but the 2 tablets, so the 5 books of Moses and the 2 tablets, we're supposed to be thinking Moses here. He is isolated. He is alone. He is on a hill. He is, again, going to have a crowd of people far away from food, a desert, if you will, and he is going to feed them. So that's what we have going on here. He takes them, he looks up to heaven, he gives thanks, and notice the progression here. He breaks the loaves and he gives them to his disciples, who in turn give them to the crowd. So they are administered through the disciples here, not directly from Jesus himself. Now, and just pointing it out, I don't know that there's anything that we need to pay attention to, but they also were participants in the miraculous, perhaps. Perhaps they also had the power to break the bread again and for it to multiply. When they are finished, there are 12 baskets full of leftovers. 12 being the number of tribes. One of the things that happens when you eat in the desert with Moses is there are no leftovers until morning, and there's only enough for you to eat. Everything else will spoil. Here, there is more than abundance. There is more than abundance. There is a basket for every tribe or a basket for every disciple. Same number. And they didn't count the women and children, but there are about 5,000 men. 5, again, being the number of the Torah, multiplied by 1,000. And so we're not necessarily looking for precision here. We are looking for it to help us see and understand the story. So after that, Jesus sends the disciples away. Like, if I send them away in the boat, they will at least get some time to themselves. He disperses the crowd. He finally gets the crowd away, and he went up the mountain by himself to pray. So now he is going further up to an isolated place, like Moses does, to spend time with God. Sound like Moses and the people, and leaving the people and going up? It's supposed to. Meanwhile, in the boat, already far from land, they were taking a beating from the waves because the wind was against them. As the night ended, Jesus came to them walking on the sea. Now, this is just one of those things like, okay, where am I supposed to see this in the Old Testament? What story am I supposed to think of? Like the wind and the waves and the control of that, and being in the boat, and the professional boatsmen afraid. We could say, well, that's a little bit like Jonah, but we've already had a story like that where Jesus is asleep in the boat, and that more matches it. So maybe this is just they've been here before, and Jesus is coming. Now, it's a ghost. It's a ghost, which to me is a funny thing to say. Most of the time, ghosts aren't thought to walk on water. Ghosts aren't thought to, like, maybe modern, but ancient times, they wouldn't necessarily. But anyway, they don't know what it is, so they are fearful. And what in the world is it? This is what they come up with. Jesus speaks to them to have courage and to not be afraid. And Peter's the first one to respond. Okay, we'll pick it up there when we get back from the ad break. Sorry, everybody, we got ads. So we have the disciples seeing Jesus. They are already fearful because of the waves and the storm. And now Jesus is walking on the water. Jesus says, have courage. Do not be afraid. You would think you would recognize his voice, even though it is him. Like, this is one of those weird things. Like, to me, it's like, Lord, if it's you, order me to come to you on the water. Like, wouldn't if whatever it is, if it is a ghost, has already been able to speak to him, wouldn't whatever it is also be able to command Peter? I mean, like, this doesn't feel like proof to me, Peter. Peter, this doesn't feel like proof. Hey, if you are Jesus, then you tell me to get out of the boat. No. If you are Jesus, tell me what I'm thinking. Like, I'm getting some other kind of thought here of, if it's you, Jesus, command the storm to be still. Like, I got some different thoughts here than Peter of, like, what proof is it? Like, okay, so when my kids were younger and there was the possibility of us not being there to pick them up for whatever reason, we told them if someone ever comes to pick you up and says that your parents told me to pick you up, they needed to know the secret word. If they did not know the secret word, they were illegitimate. They weren't actually sent by us. So like Peter, if you're just asking him to say what you repeated, like, that doesn't prove anything, Peter. Just saying. My brain doesn't prove it. So, Rhizone. Herod was so sad he had to do it because he loved to hear John speak, but put an end to it forever. No audio recordings like we have today. A lot bigger deal in the regard to losing someone like that. I hadn't thought about it that way. In the silencing the voice, in a sense, is a true silencing of the voice in the past. Like now, my sermons could live on in the ether forever. Who knows? Who knows? I can't find them, but they could be there. Okay, so Peter gets out, and we were already talking a little bit about this. Peter is confident in it until he looks at the waves, and then he sees them, and he begins to cry out. Now, at least he does this. He cries out. He is not too ashamed of his failure to cry out. Like, he's singing like, I messed up, I'm singing, I need help. Lord, save me. Like, I was arrogant enough to think I could do this. I looked at the problem. I'm not doing this, and I'm still going to ask for help. Like, don't miss that part. Don't miss that part. Yeah. Jesus, what's the passphrase? Exactly, Papsio. Like that should be it. Jesus, what's the passphrase? I will not tell you the passphrase because it is a made-up word in our household. But if I say it, this is how we knew. Like how we knew the kids knew. Nobody knows this word. But if I say it, you'll understand what it is, but nobody says it, so there we go. Yeah, Jesus doesn't have the passphrase. Anyway, it's a good system. It is. So Jesus immediately reaches out his hand, catches him. Here's another thing. We fail. We're going to fail. Like even Peter failing on this magnificent scale, Jesus is there to rescue him. You of little faith, why did you doubt? Like, why did you doubt? Because there were waves. Like, hello. Like, it wasn't hard to understand, but it's an invitation, okay? It's not an accusation. Why did you doubt? I was right here. Like, think about this when you are parenting your kids, those of you who are old enough to have that. Or think about when you were a kid and your parents were right there. And a time where they were right there and you still had a level of doubt with them. But then it doesn't even say Jesus says anything. He just enters the boat and the wind ceases. And in response to this, they worship him. It says those who were in the boat worshiped him. Not all, not some, those in the boat. Okay, Peter just got in the boat too. So I'm going to include Peter and whoever's in the boat. It was the disciples. Is this more than the 12? Maybe there's more than one boat. Regardless, they're all worshiping him and saying, truly, you are the Son of God. They are identifying him properly by what he has just done. The other thing is people will say Jesus never claims to be God. And you're right, because it's by the voice of 2 or 3 witnesses that he is going to be declared who he is. Here is one of the voices of the 2 or 3 witnesses. And you know what Jesus doesn't do? He doesn't tell them, stop worshiping me. You're only supposed to worship God. What we see when the disciples go out, and we'll just take Paul and Silas, for instance, and they try to worship them, they say, no, do not worship us. We're only ordinary men. When angels show up in different places, no, do not worship us. We're just beings as well. So the proper response, if you are not to receive worship, is to say, no, don't worship me. Jesus never stops people from worshiping him. So he doesn't need to declare himself. He is allowing 2 or 3 witnesses to declare who he is. Joel, your examples, thank you, makes it clear. Thank you. But as a kid, we never doubted we would trust parents by default. But there's still times where like you can watch kids do this. Like you can be doing something, let's just say walking on a beam and you're good, and then you need your parent right next to you, and then you suddenly don't need your parent next to you, and then you fall, and then you become afraid to get on the beam again unless your parent's holding your hand. So I'm just saying there's levels at which we can see that nature of relationship there, that we need the hand holding again, so to speak, was what my brain was thinking. Okay, Rhizone, you have a few things like that where you have enough faith for one thing but not another, when logically there wasn't a reason. Yeah, exactly. Well, and I'll just share this. So 2 years ago, I stepped out in faith to not get a full-time job, not even a part-time job as a pastor in a church, because I was going to start a prayer booth, and that was going to interfere. I'm doing a lot of streaming. That interferes, and I'm sitting here going, God, I'm still trusting you, and I still don't know what I'm doing for income, and I still waiting on stuff, and I still I want that whole level of trusting over, that I'm walking in faith. I just want to be able to just walk in confidence, and I can't. It's still a struggle to go, well, okay, is, life going to work out? My bill's going to get paid? All those things. This is also one thing, this totally applies to the situation. When I was going through that 2 years ago, the thing I wanted to do was go look at my bank account, calculate my bills, and calculate out exactly how many weeks it would take to run out of money, and then God would have to have that money provided by that time. And I really felt God said, do you trust me or do you trust your bank account? So I never calculated that out. There were plenty of times where it would look bad, and I need to look at it, and it would just make me sick to my stomach if I sat and calculated out where my money is and what I don't have, and all of those things. And frankly, I still don't know what I'm doing this year, and I still don't know if all of a sudden, I'm not asking you guys any of this. I'm just saying all of a sudden I'm partnering, I'm making money. I don't know that that's the plan for me. I'm faithful to what I'm doing. I don't know where the money's coming from. And last year, I worked on Raise Support, trying to ask people to sponsor me and as a missionary in the space and all that I'm doing. And I'm horrible at it. I still don't have an income from that. I've got one monthly giver. And that monthly giving is not enough to accumulate yet so that I can actually receive money. So I spent, 9 months plus working on that last year, and still no income. So, talk about, now little faith. Oh, I've got little faith. I want to trust myself. I want to go whatever. All right, let's finish the passage. So just referencing that. After they crossed over, they came to the land of the Gennesarets. When the people recognized him, they sent the word around, and they brought the sick, and he healed them. And they just want to touch his cloak, and they do, and they are healed. Okay, the Gennesaret, what do we have here? Was a fertile region south of Capernaum. See also Mark. The Sea of Galilee was also sometimes known as the Sea of Gennesaret in Luke. Okay, so one of the things that we do have is sometimes Matthew and John will have different locations for things and different chronology of things. And so here's what we have there. So, all right. Any last questions on John 14 before we get into John 15? Or sorry, John. I'm saying John. We're in Matthew. Joel, you're also going through that phase of fear. I need to trust God wholeheartedly. Yeah. And the phrase that I it's like, will you trust me again? Like, I don't want to trust again. I already trusted you, so now why do I have to trust again? Why should I have to trust every month? Like, why? I don't want to trust every month. Like, we're in February. I had to trust you all in January. Like, can't February just start out with, just a fun number here? Here's $50,000. You're going to be good this month. Yay! Who wouldn't cheer that way? I don't know. I don't know. Okay.